Welcome to How to Write with Mr. Reynolds. Today's poetic form that we're talking about is sneaky poetry. Now, sneaky poetry is actually a really fun riddle-style poetry to be able to create. And so it starts off with a cryptic, rather mysterious sounding first line. Then it goes down and continues to give other clues until finally, by the time you've reached the last line, you have a answer to your riddle, and then you kind of go back and think, oh yeah, all the rest of that made sense. And so one of the things that you're going to do is think about, in sneaky poetry, you're going to start broad and you're actually going to narrow it down to the final line. Now, this actually only has 5 lines in it. I know that doesn't sound like very many, but these lines are going to have a bit more structure to them. Now, they don't have to rhyme, and they don't even have a cadence or a set rhythm that goes with them. So no rhythm or no rhyming in this poem. But it does have certain requirements or certain elements, parts of speech that are going to be in each line. So the beginning of it, the first one, is going to actually have a noun or a phrase that describes or means the same thing as your topic. Now, your topic or subject will be the very last line, and that's probably what you're going to come up with first. You're going to figure out something to write about, and then you're going to just figure out how to describe it in a cryptic way. And remember, you want it to be broad because you want it to you want people to be misled in the beginning. You want it to be so broad that it could be a number of different things that fit into that category. But it's when you have revealed the answer at the end that top line is actually going to make the most sense. And so as you think about it, you want it to be that that first line to be the cryptic description or a noun or phrase of that final subject. The next line is going to either be adjectives, or it could be an adjective and a noun that's related to the subject. And so in some way you're going to describe the subject in a way that doesn't give away the answer completely, but yet it can be understood totally by the time you get to the end. Then the third line is actually going to be 2 action words. Typically, action words are, yes, verbs. And so you want to use that action word to be able to think about some actions or descriptions of actions that are being done by this particular object or subject. Then the final thing is going to, or the fourth line, not the final, but the fourth line that you're going to write there is a thought or a phrase or a sentence or something that has to do with that subject. And so it just kind of leads you further along in the clues to get to that subject. And then of course the last line is the subject. You're revealing what it might be. And so here's an example that was written by Trina Pretty, and it is huge blanket. That's the very first line. So thinking broad. So you kind of picture something in your head, huge blanket. Narrow it down a little bit with adjectives, blue and black. Then we're going to narrow it a little bit more with action words, covering and changing the world. Then we're going to narrow it down with a phrase, always there. And can you guess what it is? And the last line gives the answer, and it is sky. Now, if you thought about sky at the very beginning, okay, then that might be easy. But if you didn't think about sky at the very beginning, then now go back up, and now that you know sky, huge blanket, blue and black, covering and changing the world, always there, sky. And so it kind of narrows in as you're giving more clues. Here are some that I have written. I've written 3 of them just today. And so thinking about them, it starts off with golden beads, feathery yet scratchy, coloring and covering the earth in every crevice. And did you guess what it was? It is pine pollen. And of course, in this season right now, pine pollen is everywhere. So when you were picturing it in your mind, did you picture pine pollen right away? Did the picture that you pictured in your mind change after each new clue was given? That's what you want your reader to do whenever you write this style of poetry. Here's another one. Edible plate. Spicy and satisfying. Melted and baked to perfection. A vessel for deliciousness. Did you guess what it was? If you guessed pizza, you are correct. Pizza. Here's the last one. Shelter in place. Structurally solid and sweet. Crowding, yet comforting. Hub of activity. Did you guess what it was? Beehive is the answer. So you would write those 5 lines in that way. Here are some examples for you to try to write this sneaky poetry. It sneaks up on you, that's why it's called the sneaky poetry. If you think about clouds as your last line, you might call them a marshmallow blanket at the beginning. At the beginning line, it might be soul torture, S-O-L-E, and that is Legos. First line might be lazy cow. Last line might be ground beef. You might have the first line be border patrol, and last line be your neighbor's fence. You might have the first line be a giant's playground, and the last line be mountain range. Hopefully these have inspired you to create some of your own sneaky poems. Think of other ideas, have fun writing, creating, and don't forget, share your sneaky poems with us. Enjoy writing.